is off the table. We take more listener calls, spark more honest conversations, and challenge more assumptions than any talk station in Southern California. Because good ideas matter more than ideology. KBLA Talk 1580, your station, your voice, your city. Listen live at KBLA 1580 AM on our free KBLA 1580 app or on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive. It's just me out here. At least that's what it feels like. They said I wouldn't make it, that this was a city of broken dreams. But somehow lost angels broke cages. They seen animals, we made stages. Became famous by freeing the world of their own danger. Prison mentalities, we're all hanging from propaganda. Victim blaming, all divided with remainders of Mikes, Trayvons, and Oscars. Given the common legends, no acting. The new Selma's happening right now. Mama, I made it. I killed this freestyle before they killed me. They saw Rodney, you saw a king. Realize how powerful you are and break free.
LA, can't believe we found love in the city of LA. LA, it's the city of angels, it can take you anywhere. LA, 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 we found love, we found love. LA, we found love. In the city of the gangbang, yeah, we still dying over red and blue strings. Chunk my setup and it feel good, cause don't nobody love you more than your neighborhood. We always had, we don't love those. Grew up around the gangsters and the cutthroats. Be careful where you at, you might get bust on. Yeah. On my South Central, Inglewood, twisting fingers up. Compton and Watts, the east side, always turning up. Bags up at Greystone and Supper Club. Tell them where we from, like LA. Can't believe we found love in the city of LA. LA, it's the city of angels, it can take you anywhere. LA, we found love.
KBLA Talk 1580. We are your election information station. And I say that because we are on a mission to make sure you know what the heck is going on, that you're activated, that you realize the election is now. You can vote right now. If you got that little piece of mail that you've been ignoring, you can also vote up till June 2nd. And we're making sure that you get a chance to talk to as many of the people you might be voting for as possible. Right now, we're focused back on the race for LA Mayor, which is a pretty crowded field. We've talked to a lot of folks running, and I'm happy to have in studio with me a community organizer. She's an ordained Presbyterian minister and a leader who says she spent the past 2 decades bringing people together to fight for dignity, fairness, and an LA where everyone has a place to call home. Reverend Rae Huang, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And thank you for coming in live and in person. What is your purpose? I mean, obviously you have a track record as an activist and an organizer. So why switch to the other side, to the lawmaker side, rather than the community organizer side?
Yeah, there's 2 reasons. The first is that I've been on the ground. I've been organizing with organizers for so long, and we've been creating the solutions that we need for Los Angeles to truly keep us safe. And, things like, for example, passing measures that could provide revenue to build truly affordable housing, to prevent homelessness, to be able to raise minimum wages, for example, for workers, hospitality workers in time for the Olympics. But time and time again, what we're seeing is people in City Hall end up weakening what we're doing. They seem to be bought out by special interests and not actually be working alongside our people. And so, I just got to a place where I was so fed up. And I said, enough is enough. And because I organize with communities, we are very strategic on the ground. We're not just willy-nilly, showing up and protesting. We actually have very specific actions and steps towards winning power. And so one of those decisions we decided together to make is, well, why not build power inside City Hall as well? And so that was the first reason. And I'll say just simply the second reason is I'm just on my own. I cannot stomach anymore the poverty that I am seeing on the streets, that I am feeling in my community. 6 people die a day because of homelessness. That, if we really truly want to talk about the problem of safety in our communities, let's talk about poverty. Let's talk about the things that are really killing our communities and the thing that we're not actually tackling as a city. And this is a systemic issue. It's not just something that we can make simple laws about to reform piece by piece. We have to talk about the full-on system and what is truly killing our own Angelenos.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff there that we can dive a little deeper into. Every politician or person that's not a politician that's running to be one says they're going to make things more affordable. But what's the reality of that? I mean, you can't control gas prices. Can you control landlords? I mean, we have pretty strict rent control, but the rent's really, really high. Can you control how much it costs to buy a home? Like, what can you really do to make LA more affordable?
You know, that's a really great question. A lot of times we feel stuck, like things are happening to us instead of us taking ownership of what we can change. And so there are things we can change. That's the power of the people. That's the power of the intelligence that we have within our community. And that solution is social housing. That solution is switching from seeing real estate as a place of profit and turning it into understanding that homes are for people, for individuals, for our communities, for our families, over profit. Now you might wonder, well, how do we get there? How do we change the system? On one level, there's the narrative, which is helping people understand, well, if clean water needs to be a basic human right and clean air needs to be a basic human right, let's also talk about how housing needs to be a basic human right. And then let's start walking towards that. And the way that we can do that is something that we've practiced around the world already. In the world beyond the borders of the U.S., many countries have social housing. Now, for those listening, what is social housing? Social housing is community and publicly owned buildings and properties that are permanently off the speculative market. They're not privately run, privately owned to be able to make profit. They are publicly and community owned, so they're permanently owned by an entity that cares not about profit, but about providing housing for the long term. And it's also community managed. It's managed by the residents who live in the buildings themselves. So you no longer have to wait till your landlord feels like finally fixing that leak that's causing mold in your community, mold in your household that's making your children have asthma. But you can fix it immediately because, well, you own it.
Right. How is that different than a housing project or the New York co-ops, which, the people that got in there back in the Stone Age still have affordable rent, but no one can get in now?
Yeah, great question. Those are models of social housing. And the reason why they're still around and they still provide affordable housing is because it works. It is permanent affordability for the long term, and that's why people are competing to get into them. So what if we were to expand the number of those types of units?
But I mean, some people are trying to get out the projects.
Correct. So there is a concern because we've seen the projects
right
as this negative thing.
Crime-ridden.
Sorry?
Crime-ridden.
Yes. Crime-ridden, they see them as slums. The reason why is because we have chosen as a country to continue to defund the places and spaces where the poor live over time, especially since the Reagan administration. And so what we need to be doing is when the early parts of, when we started first building public housing, they were these brand new buildings. They were beautiful. And I'm happy to take anybody on this call to go see the new public housing that is actually in South LA. I was recently in Watts, and there's these beautiful buildings that are public housing. the thing is, when we do take care of our housing, we put resources into it, to the upkeep, to providing community resource agents living in those buildings to provide and support with after-school programs for kids, to help people when they're struggling with jobs, to help with, the career counseling that they need. We can help people be able to improve. But the problem is, again and again, what we've seen our city and in general, the U.S. government do is defund those, particularly for those, if you will, who are Black, who are brown, who are poor. We are not the priority of the city or the country. But if we are able to change this tune and actually put our resources into the things, into the community, into our families, then we can finally have enough for us to be able to thrive.
Talking with Reverend Rae Huang. She would like your vote to be mayor of the city of Los Angeles, and we will continue this conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I love days like these at the pool, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. I'm ready to make a splash with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza. Skyrizi is a prescription-only injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. At 4 months, most people saw 90% clearer skin when measured from head to toe, and many were even 100% plaque-free. People also saw significant improvement in psoriasis symptoms of pain, redness, itching, and burning.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Now there's nothing on my skin thanks to Skyrizi, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relationship wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you indeed. We are talking with Reverend Rae Huang. She's running for mayor of Los Angeles. It is a crowded field, as I've said. A lot of different folks running. I've talked to many of them. Where do you place yourself in the field? Like, how would you describe you, the candidate?
Yeah. I would say that I am the person, the only candidate who's really literally on the ground with communities every single day, and have been over the last well over a decade now here in Los Angeles. And that is who I am. And, I am unapologetically progressive. I stand with the people. I fight for and with the people. And yeah, that I guess that's probably how I describe myself as the candidate who does that.
And as the person, how did you get to that place?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small immigrant church as a child. My family moved from Taiwan to the U.S. And my family, my parents being Taiwanese, they didn't speak the same language to the town that we moved to. We looked different. We were the only, I remember as a child, I was only one of two children of color in my school, and Taiwanese. My best friend was Taiwanese. It was just us two. And that was how we grew up. But the thing is, the church, where everybody else was also either Taiwanese or Chinese, we all came together and supported one another, a lot like a village. Because we had no other extended family who moved with us to the U.S., it was just the four of us. But because we were part of this church community, when somebody was sick, another family would bring soup. When there was domestic violence happening in the community, which we didn't talk about, we would just invite the victims to come and just live with us in our house until they got back on their feet. Like, that was just how we were as a community. We took care of each other. And that was why I was so drawn to serve the church. I was also just drawn to asking questions around, what's the best way to live? How do you serve your community? And so that led me to eventually, pursue ministry in serving the church. I did find myself actually eventually leaving that particular denomination because they did not ordain women, and they don't ordain LGBTQ. And I wanted to be a part of a congregation that could support me and support the community and also support my theological beliefs. And so I joined the Presbyterian Church, which was very activated in community organizing work. The first campaign that I got engaged in that church was working on at the time was the Massachusetts Affordable Health Care Act. It was the law that, made healthcare more affordable and actually expanded healthcare to families that wouldn't be able to receive it. And that ended up being the model of what we ended up passing under President Obama's administration in the country. And so that's what got my feet wet. I started working on youth safety issues and organizing my teenagers and youth, young adults around how to make our cities safer. Things like identifying where we needed to have a crosswalk, identifying the street lights that needed to be fixed, that were being ignored in the projects where most of my youth lived, and were stabilized, by the way, and are today. A number of their parents still live there, right? So this is the model by which it shaped my upbringing. I ended up going to Boston University School of Theology, where Dr. King did his doctorate because he was such a role model for me. And I was pursuing this route of how to be somebody who could serve the community and as a pastor because of my theological calling, as well as an organizer. And that, the rest is history.
And you are also a mom.
I am. I am the mother of two girls here in Los Angeles. I am single and divorced here. I co-parent with their dad. It is a struggle. I would say that has deeply, deeply shaped who I am. And perhaps why I'm doing this is that I desperately need a future for my children and I. My children have already said, Mom, we won't be able to live in LA when we grow up. We can't because it's too unaffordable. And it's hard to say, but, they're right. It's so expensive. It's so hard to live here. We live in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles. And, I wish I had more space for them to do their homework, but I don't. I've looked into it. I can't. That's just the way things are. And I think we can just accept what we have, or we fight for what we need. And I think ultimately, I am a fighter. I am somebody who believes that when you take your situation under control and you fight for what it is that you need, and you fight for the people that you love and the community that you have, for me, which is really my my Angelino neighbors and organizers and colleagues that I have learned to fight alongside for so many years, you realize that if we do this together, we can win.
You are Deputy Director at Housing now, which is why I started with the housing question. But what we didn't talk about yet is the unhoused issue, because we're talking about affordability for renters. And, well, before I move on to the unhoused, let me ask you this too, because part of the, I guess, talking points are people when they are saying, don't vote for you, comes to this issue, the same issue that a lot of the some of the progressive council members face, which is that there's already too much rent control. There's already too much pressure, particularly on mom and pop landlords that had to carry us through COVID. They had to carry us, now they have to carry us through, the crises of affordability, and that is untenable for people to own homes or people that have buildings beside the one they live in.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. We need to expand affordable housing at large, right? The reason that our landlords are struggling is because there's so few options of affordable housing, and our tenants are struggling to be able to afford rent because our wages are not going up as fast as our rents are.
Yeah.
And with inflation costs, it's so expensive to be able to fix your units. And so we're just all kind of struggling out there.
What could we do to reel in corporate, mass landlords and support the mom and pop? Because a lot of, particularly in African Americans, I do know a lot of elders, they have one duplex or they have one little building, and that's their retirement money. Right.
Yeah.
And they're getting regulated right along with these big, Blackwater type deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is we need to be regulating these large speculators that are coming up and buying all of these units and making it so, and flipping them and making it so difficult and so expensive for our families to be able to own. And it's raising the prices. And then on the flip side too, we need to be fighting to raise the wages of our workers.
So along that line, what are your thoughts on the City Council backing off of the $30 an hour wage for hospitality until after the Olympics?
Yeah, I'm absolutely furious. Here's the thing. I've been a part of that campaign supporting to be able to raise up that minimum wage for years now that we've been fighting for it. And it's called the Olympic wages, right? And it's not even going to come in time for the Olympics.
What do you say to business owners who say that will put me under $30 an hour? I can't afford that.
I think ultimately we have to be thinking about this as a full-on system, right? Like every lever that you shift is going to impact the other. And so we really need to be seeing how intersectional our housing and wages fight and even climate fight are all pulled together. And so as we're fighting for one and the other, we have to see how we can actually function as a whole cohesive. This is why what I am intending on doing is also not only ushering social housing, which can stabilize the real estate market, both for those who want to purchase homes as well as those who want to rent homes, but also to bring in a public bank. A public bank would be able to ensure that we have money that is not going to Wall Street. We're not losing, the hundreds of millions of dollars into the fees that you usually pay to take out a loan for infrastructure, but rather we can retain it in our own community and invest in us. The invitation I am making to Los Angeles is the question of, can we invest in us? Can we put money instead of, for example, the LAPD, very large budget right now, and put that funding actually into the things that we need so that we can prevent crime from happening in the first place. If we are able to put more funding into building affordable housing, into support for renters, into preventing homelessness, that means our families are more stable and crime is less likely to occur. And then the more that we can stabilize families and make them feel safe, the more that they're going to want to spend money at their local small businesses. The reason our small businesses are suffering is because people don't have that money or time or feel safe enough to be able to go out and spend that money. The safer and more secure we feel as community members, the more likely we are going to spend that money in the economy.
I was just doing a little rant this morning because I feel like everybody that's running for mayor and some of the folks that are running for governor, but mostly the mayoral folks, are talking about how LA is in shambles, it's a hellscape, blah, blah. And I don't think so. I mean, I see problems, but I think LA is probably a better place to live than most places in the world. You just said that, people don't feel safe. And I hear everyone saying that. It sounds to me like a conservative talking point. Unpack what you mean by that.
Yeah. So right now, this is the culture, the feeling that everyone's making, right, is that we don't feel safe because we have, we're struggling to be able to afford our housing. And we also have a large visually, we see a lot of unhoused on the streets. Yeah. We are... there is theft in our communities, and, we know that. And then also, let's talk about the real biggest problem of safety, though. So we talk about this fear of safety, but the reality is what's actually causing what's actually causing us to be unsafe. Crime has actually literally been down in our city.
I know. That's why I'm like, why are we saying it's a hellscape?
Yeah, exactly. And the other piece of it is there's more people dying on the streets because of traffic collisions than anything else.
Right.
It's the biggest killer of our children.
It's crazy.
And poverty is a thing that's honestly sucking everything out of us. It's the feeling that we can't afford and are struggling to be able to just make it to the next day, to wonder where our funds going to be to be able to pay for our kids to go to college, where our funds going to be to be able to pay for that next paycheck. For that next bill, right? And so we are really struggling because we feel stuck. And what I want to do is get us unstuck. And the way that we're going to do that is, again, to make our city more affordable. How? Housing is the biggest cost of our paycheck right now. The second, transit is the second biggest cut from our paycheck. And so if we are able to both stabilize those two pieces while also supporting our small businesses, while also putting more of our resources, for example, into after-school programs, right, into mentorship, into counseling. Right now, our city budget is cutting, the proposal that Karen Bass made recently in the budget proposal is to increase dollars for the police in time for the Olympics, increase dollars for surveillance, meanwhile cutting the Department of Aging, cutting the Department of Youth Services.
Hold that thought. We got a hard stop here for news, traffic, and sports. We'll continue the conversation with mayoral candidate Rae Huang when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A Detroit family is grieving after two siblings were killed in a targeted shooting on the east side of the city. Police say Black 33-year-old Ray Johnson and his sister, 27-year-old Takoria Rita Johnson, were shot in separate vehicles, possibly tied to an online dispute. Police Chief Todd Bettison said an arrest will come soon.
Our officers are good, our detectives are good, and so it's hard to commit a crime and get away with it now.
No arrests have been made. A so-called whites-only community in Arkansas is facing a federal lawsuit. A Missouri woman says she was denied land because she's part of a multiracial family. The suit seeks to end the group's policies and recover damages for discrimination. And Anjanette Young has been appointed to Chicago's Police Oversight Board. Young, who is Black, gained national attention after a botched 2019 police raid, later reaching a nearly $3 million settlement with the city. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you, quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500, plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams are acting like they want to keep quarterback Matthew Stafford around for 2 more years. The 38-year-old Stafford is under contract for the coming season, but the Rams gave the reigning MVP a 1-year extension worth $55 million. The extension keeps Stafford under contract through the 2027 season if he chooses to play that long. San Antonio Spurs star Victor Wembanyama, in just his 3rd NBA season, has something in common with Lakers legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Wembanyama and Kareem are the only 2 players in NBA history with at least 60 points and 40 rebounds in the first 2 games of a conference final. Wembanyama has collected 62 points and 41 rebounds in the first 2 games against Oklahoma City. Kareem had 69 points and 40 rebounds in the first 2 games in the 1974 Western Conference Finals against Chicago when he was with Milwaukee. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Every day on KBLA Talk 1580, it's like a live town hall meeting over the airwaves. Politics, culture, community, justice, nothing is off the table. We take more listener calls, spark more honest conversations, and challenge more assumptions than any talk station in Southern California. Because good ideas matter more than ideology. KBLA Talk 1580, your station, your voice, your city. Listen live at KBLA 1580 AM on our free KBLA 1580 app or on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
Let me tell you something about Los Angeles. This city doesn't have small problems, so it damn sure doesn't need small, weak leadership. That's why I support Karen Bass. She walked into a system that was slow, broken, and reluctant to change. She cut through red tape and started moving people off the streets into housing. She created the Office of Community Safety to make our neighborhoods safer, supported wage increases for many underpaid workers, expanded contract opportunities for small minority business, and signed an executive order to give formerly incarcerated people a second chance. Karen Bass is about real change. I'm Samuel L. Jackson, and I've seen a lot of people talk tough. Karen Bass is tough. That's why I'm voting for Karen Bass, and you should too. So vote today. You received your ballot in the mail by now. You don't even have to go to the polls. Just fill out your ballot and hand it to your postal worker. No stamp needed.
Paid for by re-elect Karen Bass for Mayor 2026, 445 South Figueroa Street, Suite 2400, Los Angeles, California 90071. Funding details at ethics.lacity.gov.
Hi, I'm Chris Holden, former California Assembly member, former Mayor of Pasadena, and CEO of LA Fire Justice. I've spent my career fighting for our communities. When I saw Edison celebrating $4.5 billion in profits while Eaton Fire survivors struggled to make ends meet, it made me simultaneously sick and furious. Families and individuals are dealing with financial pressure, insurance delays, costly remediation, and the painful question of how to rebuild their lives, while the utility that caused the fire is paying its executives millions and is more profitable than ever. That's not justice, that's a disgrace. Join the lawsuit with LA Fire Justice to hold Edison accountable. We're here to help you, your family, and our community recover. Visit lafirejustice.com today to learn more about your eligibility and how to start.
Advertisement. Douglas Boxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
I know all your taglines.
You know all our taglines. Are you a KBLA listener?
Yeah.
Reverend Rae Huang is here. She's running for mayor of LA. Yeah, she's lip syncing to the taglines. Look, I have said repeatedly on this show that I don't think this is the time for a protest vote for mayor or governor. And you can take that personally if you want to. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I think that this is the time for us to vote our values and our vision and what we hope and want for Los Angeles. I loved what you were saying earlier about the fact that everybody's, calling wolf, and saying, oh, our city is falling apart. The reality is, that fear is what causes us to not be able to move forward. Fear oftentimes results in us either flighting, right, running away, freezing, or fighting, right?
You sound like Dr. Melina Abdullah, who I know, my colleague and friend, who I know has endorsed you. But what I say to that is I'm not voting my fear, I'm voting strategy. You're, a progressive candidate. You've done better than people have expected at the polls, but you're still a long shot. So why give Spencer Pratt a better chance to win?
I think in this moment, it's about really asking the question, do we want to change what we have? The establishment, uses these tactics to say, these are the only options that you have. And what I want to say is, if we always vote out of our place of fear, if we always vote so that way we can prevent a Spencer Pratt from winning, right, then we never actually move towards the things that we want for the future of Los Angeles. And I think that if we really want to break out of the systems that break out of the power and the wealth that is always held by the same few people, it's the opportunity and time for us to be able to pull together and say, let's have something different. I would say that part of the reason, why Trump is elected is because there's so many people who are looking for an anti-establishment.
But to be fair, Mayor Karen Bass is hardly a Trump. She's hardly the usual suspects in power. She's a black woman, born and raised in LA. You know what I'm saying? Built the community coalition. So it's not like, it's not quite that scenario.
Oh, definitely. And look, if people are excited about Karen Bass, please go and vote for her. If people are excited about Spencer Pratt, they'll vote for him. What I am offering is an anti-establishment campaign, if you will, a campaign that truly is not about holding the same system up over and over again, but really one that is committed to seeing a new vision for Los Angeles, to being able to actually have a future where we have enough housing for everybody, where we actually can make transit more affordable and available, where we can have more resources for our families and our children and our seniors who are really struggling in this moment.
And we didn't mention Nithya Raman. Some folks say that you're taking away from her, that she's the real progressive in the race. And some have gone so far to accuse the police union of trying to support you so they can undermine Nithya Raman. What do you say about that?
I think, look, Nithya Raman and I are running on two very different platforms. I think Nithya Raman is, she's done some great things around tenant protections, and I applaud her for that. And I was supportive of, being able to lower the rent stabilization ordinance lower, so that way we can stabilize more renters, although it only goes so far because it's only for those who are currently in rent-controlled units. However, I've been the reason I got into this race was around Measure ULA. Measure ULA is
the mansion tax.
Exactly. It's the mansion tax. It's a one-time transfer tax that, we apply to properties that are $5 million or more. And it's only a small percentage of that. It's a small percentage of that sale, but that goes towards building the housing that we need here in the city of Los Angeles. It goes towards preventing homelessness. It's funded now thousands of people being able to stay housed and the prevention of evictions, and also the support, emergency support for seniors who are struggling with being able to afford the rent. This, if we do cut this revenue, it's going to hurt so many people and continue to, expand the poverty that we have. We must protect, what we have, the little revenue we have, to be able to make housing more affordable right now. And to do the opposite would be so devastating to our communities. And not only that, but, there's this argument that it's hurting our supply. In fact, it's quite the opposite. This year, we've seen a growth just because last year we finally were able to release these funds. The revenue has finally become available to build affordable housing. We have exceeded our expectations in being able to now build the housing we need. And also we need to preserve affordable housing units as well, because a lot of it is coming offline very soon in the next couple of years.
Let's go back to the issue of houselessness. I kind of veered off here. What's your prescription for dealing with the unhoused in LA?
Yeah, I mean, the prescription to both the affordable housing crisis and to homelessness is housing. They're two sides of the same coin.
What do you say to folks that say we have more empty apartments than we have homeless people?
We need to get those homeless people into those empty apartments.
Now, how do we do that?
A
lot of them are luxury apartments.
Exactly. Which is why, we are working so hard to ensure that we are building as much affordable housing as possible, which is why Measure ULA is so significant for us, because it focuses not on building more luxury housing. Look, luxury housing is going to be built by our developers who are looking to make some profit, and they'll continue to do that. And, we will make it easier for them to do that because it is important that we streamline the process, that we cut regulations that are outdated and being able to, build faster. So we do need to encourage building faster as much as we can and also building up. But what we need to do is every single piece of our resource from the city, from our revenue to our time, we need to be focusing on building truly affordable housing.
And in the short term, what do we do to help the unhoused? Clearly, whether you're progressive or conservative, we've got a Super Bowl and an Olympics and a World Cup, which is here right now. How do we accommodate the unhoused and also do what we have to do as a host city?
Well, look, right now, the Inside Safe program has not been shown to be effective. 40% of people who are the Inside Safe program have now left the program. So they are back on the streets. Also, the Inside Safe program had promised that it would house people within 3 months. I've talked to there's not a single Inside Safe program participant actually that I've talked to yet who has not been moved multiple times while they've been in the program. And the goal of the program is to stabilize people. This is so key because every single time you move, I don't know if when you've moved last, but it's destabilizing. It really, you have to figure out who your new community is. It can be mentally destabilizing.
Yeah, moving is one of the things that they call, one of the most traumatic things we do. Again, I think this is one area where it's probably, easier to say we'll fix it than to actually fix it. Whatever we think about Inside Safe, this is the first time we've seen a decrease in houselessness.
I would say the decrease in houselessness definitely, you can say because we've gotten people off of the streets and into hotels and motels, but you have to remember how expensive it is. I would also say the Measure ULA supports has also significantly helped prevent homelessness as well. But the problem is we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in the Inside Safe program. It costs about $80,000 per person to be in the Inside Safe program. We could save so much more money if we were able to put our neighbors into a more stable long-term solution instead of a hotel and motel, but into apartment buildings.
But do we have those apartment buildings? Do we have the?
So right now, LAHSA actually is paying and has been buying up large.
The housing agency.
Exactly. Has been buying up or renting out, large groups of units from buildings. And this is what we need to go towards the model of. And it's still It's still a stepping stone. What ultimately I want to do is shift from being able to put all of our dollars into short-term Band-Aid solutions like shelters, situations like the Inside Safe program, because it is a shelter in the sense that it is a short-term solution, and shift it towards a long-term solution. So we need to put as much of our revenue and time and energy into building and supporting measures like ULA. I'm excited about the CEO tax, which is also going to hopefully be on the ballot in November, which would be a tax on companies that have CEOs that make more than 50 times their employees, and it's a progressive tax that money would be going towards building affordable housing, amongst other things like a public grocery store. We want to be finding and identifying other streams of revenue and then advocating on a statewide level to increase the funding that's coming from the state to be able to build. Right now, less than 2% of our state budget has been going to housing and homelessness since 2018. For a state where legislators have said for years, housing is our biggest priority, but we haven't seen the money, we haven't put our money where our mouth is. It's the same thing across the board here in the city of Los Angeles, where over almost half of our budget is going to the police, and so little of it is going towards housing and homelessness. We need to change the tune and start putting our priorities where our mouth is.
Would you fire the police chief?
I would.
And how do you change the culture? How can you work with law enforcement to do the Olympics and do just the city in general, not just the Olympics, the Super Bowl, whatever, and cut their budget?
Look, right now, law enforcement, have to be social workers. They have to be mental health counselors. They have to do everything, right? The reason we expanded this unarmed crisis response unit, which has been successful, and we actually have expanded it recently, is because we know that when crisis occurs, we need to make sure that the expert in that crisis is there to help support you. If you're having a mental health concern, you're being met with a person who is able to help support you in that moment. If you are having a health concern, you have an EMT or a doctor or a nurse be there to support you.
Right. And that's pretty much what the whole Measure J, Measure R movement was for LA, right? Care first. But what I'm talking about is, how do you work with the existing police department? They've been very resistant to change.
Yes.
They have, they spent millions to keep Bass out. Now they're supporting her. It's really weird. I don't think that... I say it's really weird because I don't think law enforcement unions or associations should be allowed to donate to candidates. But that's a separate issue. You still have to work with them. As mayor, you have to lead the whole city. The cops, the fire department. It's a massive thing. You've never held elected office. How do you work with them if you cut their budget and still have effective policing, whatever that is?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, is that ultimately I do want to cut the budget of the police. I do want to put those resources into things to prevent crime to begin with. I do want to make sure that, we are actually putting people in places and in communities where they're going to feel, or making sure that the resources that they're meeting are going to be met with what they need, right? Like, that's ultimately the goal of what I'm trying to do is, let's talk about the fact that the police have historically actually, not been a place where people have felt safe. And historically, the police have been corrupt. They have been racist. Racial profiling is still happening today. I have a friend who on a regular basis still gets pulled over because he's driving while black. When he is in my car and he says anything about the police, his children raise their hands up because their children know what to expect because they've seen it with their very own eyes. The police here in Los Angeles have been historically corrupt, historically racist, historically sexist, historically homophobic and transphobic, historically classist. We need to change the culture of the police. And one of the ways to do that is to replace our police chief with a police chief that does agree with the direction of reimagining what public safety could be for Los Angeles, recognizing the history, a sordid history of racist practices and, if you will, police gangs within the history of LAPD, right, and LASD. We need to have somebody who is willing to hold our our offices accountable, our departments accountable for what has been in the past and change the tune for the future. And that means replacing police commissioners. That means reimagining what the police could be to the next level up. We know that the history of police comes from slave catching. We have to reckon with that. So if the police are there to protect capital instead of protect people, we need to have a new model, a new way of reimagining what public safety could look for us. And I am suggesting that what that looks like is unarmed crisis response. What that looks like is actually putting our funding into building housing, putting our funding into things that actually keep people stabilized and safe, like health, right? And so on and so forth.
Reverend Rae Huang is my guest. She's running for mayor of LA, and we'll continue the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelinos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
You have your vote by mail ballot. Now it's time to vote. Drop it off early at any official ballot drop box. Visit plan.lavote.gov to learn more. Brought to you by the Los Angeles County Registrar.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Reverend Rae Huang is here. She is running for mayor of Los Angeles. And tell us, Reverend Rae, about your endorsements.
Yeah. I have endorsements from a couple local organizations and from some political organizations, as well as some labor unions. And I'm very proud of being able to have the support of a lot of community members. I also have, the support of Professor Melina Doc, as I like to call her, Doc Melina Abdullah, who I've been, closely working alongside on the People's Budget LA for a long time here. Co-leader of Black Lives Matter LA, and as well as Baba Akili. And so, very proud of the supports I've received.
When her website is RaeForLA, by the way, .com, Rae for LA. It's RAE, Rae FOR LA, RaeForLA.com. Where are you? Our city has a reparations task force. It's a Freedman Friday. Where are you on reparations?
You can see on my platform that I'm very in support of making sure that we carry out the recommendations that the Reparations Committee Task Force had suggested. We haven't done anything with them yet, but it is time that we actually, fund and repair what we have done in the past or our mistakes in the past, and ensure that our community members are rightfully compensated, so that way we can get our communities back on their feet.
You stated that you're housing burdened yourself. I mean, right? You're living in a small apartment. Where in the city? What neighborhood would you say you represent now?
Yeah, I live proudly in Sawtelle. It is a historic Japanese ethnic neighborhood, and I love living there with my 2 children. When you walk around the streets, you'll see it's a Japanese ethnic enclave because, as we know, the history of Los Angeles, a lot of times you can't just live where you want to live. You are oftentimes end up being pushed into certain corners based on the color of your skin. And so that was where a lot of Japanese gardeners and families lived together in community, making it their neighborhood their own. And so when you walk around today in Sawtelle, you'll see a lot of architecture that is influenced by Japanese culture. You'll see a lot of gardens that have been shaped by Japanese gardeners, and I love it. I love that about Sawtelle.
I shouldn't have left this to the end, but I did. What's your prescription or your offering to Black LA?
My prescription and offering is that it is time that Los Angeles sees Black Angelinos as the center and part of our city. For too long, we make decisions not for everybody in Los Angeles. We make decisions really for those who are powerful and wealthy already in our city, and we just keep that money and those resources amongst the few. And they are largely white neighborhoods and white communities, and it's time that we change the tune and we truly recognize how much the city historically has and continues even today in the way that we are policing our own, in the way, in the amount of poverty. We need to be truthful with ourselves that the majority of people who are unhoused are Black, for the population that we have here in Los Angeles. That is immoral. That is unjust. It says that we as a city do not prioritize every single person here in Los Angeles. And it's time that we change it around. And that's why I'm so committed to changing the tune and the systems to ensure that we do have housing, that we do have transportation, that we do have access to resources for our aging elders here in Los Angeles, and especially for Black Los Angeles, who has been disenfranchised and on the margins of our communities for too long.
Thank you so much for spending the hour with me. Thank you for coming live and in person. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
You can find more about Reverend Rae Huang on her website, Rae4LA. It's FORNRAE, Rae4LA.com. I appreciate the conversation. If you haven't been paying attention, if you haven't been filling out your sample ballot, all of our interviews with judicial candidates, mayoral candidates, and more, they are on YouTube at KBLA 1580. They're linked on our website, and you can find them wherever you get your podcast. Tap in, weigh in, get ready. The best of Tavis Smiley is next. He's got some amazing highlights from the week that was. I'm pretty sure he'll recap that Javier Becerra interview that he did on yesterday. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And the Karen Bass interview also. Okay, a lot coming up. Like my father, the late, great Amiri Baraka used to say, a person is either free or they are not free. There can be no apprenticeship for freedom. Until next time, my beloved KBLA delegation, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A Detroit family is grieving after 2 siblings were killed in a targeted shooting on the east side of the city. Police say Black 33-year-old Ray Johnson and his sister, 27-year-old Takoria Rita Johnson, were shot in separate vehicles, possibly tied to an online dispute. Police Chief Todd Bettison said an arrest will come soon.
Our officers are good, our detectives are good, and so it's hard to commit a crime and get away with it now.
No arrests have been made. A so-called whites-only community in Arkansas is facing a federal lawsuit. A Missouri woman says she was denied land because she's part of a multiracial family. The suit seeks to end the group's policies and recover damages for discrimination.